You can draw this in Procreate. I will show you how you can create the perfect background for your iPad in Procreate. I'll take you through all the steps of creating this abstract art piece. It is super easy and the possibilities are endless, so I'm sure you'll have fun with this. And I have dropped a link to the color palette down in the description in case you want to use the exact same colors as I'm using. And then if you're ready, let's get started. We are going to start off by creating a canvas, and since we are creating a background for our iPad, we can just go to the plus and then tap screen size. That'll be the perfect size. Now we are going to use some of the basics brushes. We'll start with the Jaguar, and for the color, we are going to pick this one, second color in the second row. The opacity of the brush is at 100% and the size is at 15. Now let's zoom out a little bit so we can see the edges of our canvas. And let's start drawing a circle. So draw a circle, then hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape. And then you can hold one finger on your screen to make it turn into a perfectly round circle. And then we'll drag the color into the circle to fill it. Then we'll make another circle, but on a new layer. So we'll tap the plus in this menu. And then we'll make a smaller circle over here. Hold your pen in place. Hold one finger on your screen and then drag in the color. Then we'll make another layer. We'll tap the plus, and this time we'll create a bigger circle. So something like this. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and then let go and drag in the color. Now I want this to be like half of a circle. And a way to do that is by going to the selection tool, then setting it to rectangle, and now we are going to select the left side. And I don't want it to be like a perfect half. I want to go to like maybe here. And then you can go to the layer menu, tap the layer, and use clear. And I will make another layer on top of this. Let's tap the plus and switch our color. Let's go for this one. That's the first color in the first row. And let's draw a circle over here, overlapping the other ones. Hold your pen in place, hold your finger on the screen, and you can also tap circle here in case you want to move it around. I want it to be about here. And then you can drag in the color. And then for another circle, let's tap the plus, and then let's draw a smaller circle. Hold your pen in place again, tap your finger on the screen, and then drag in the color. Next, we are going to create some rectangular shapes. That'll create a nice contrast with these rounded shapes. Now first I want to go to this layer and make some shapes on top of this. Let's tap the plus, and then for the color, let's pick this pink, the third color. And then we'll go to the selection tool again, and this time we'll turn on color fill. So now when we create a selection, it'll immediately fill it. Let's start about here and create a rectangular shape like this. And then we'll make a layer on top of this. We'll tap the plus, and now we will pick this second color, the darker blue, go to the selection tool, and then we'll make another selection overlapping this one a bit, and also these circles. We'll go for something like this. Then we'll make some more layers on top of our blue circles. So let's tap the plus, go to the selection tool again, and then let's make a tall rectangle over here. And then we'll make another layer. We'll tap the plus and also make a rectangle. So go to the selection tool, make a rectangle over here. And of course you don't have to follow me like exactly creating the exact same shapes. You can totally go wild with this. So you can totally use your creativity. Let's make one more. Let's go to the layer menu, tap the plus, go to the selection tool, and let's make like a long stretched rectangular shape here. I feel like this might be a little bit too high, but that's okay. We can change that. So we got this. Then we can go to the Move and Transform tool, Now we can just move it down a little bit so it's in the middle of these rectangles, and then tap the arrow. Now we got a nice balanced composition, and now it's time to add all the textures. But first, let's change our background color. Let's tap background color in our layer menu and tap this color so it's a nice pinkish tone. And then for now, let's turn off our rectangles. You can just use these check marks, turn them off, and then we'll start by adding texture to our circles. Let's start with the first one. Now you can tap the layer and turn on alpha lock, so now that when we draw on it, we won't go outside of the shape. And then for our brush, let's use the mint brush. It has a super nice texture. And then for the color, we will use this first color, the blue. The opacity of the brush is at 100%. The size is at 14. And now let's go over this lower left area with like a curved motion and a very light pressure. And then we can also add a little bit of this lighter pink first color and add that to the upper right with a circular motion. I hope you're having fun so far creating your own abstract art piece. If you want to get even more creative, get your Procreate drawing skills to the next level, then I would suggest checking out my Patreon page. I have more than 250 Procreate drawing and painting tutorials over there, so I will just leave a link for you down in the description in case you want to check that out. It would be great to welcome you there. But now let's continue. Then let's move on to the next one. This one, we can tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and then again, let's add some blue. We can go for the darker blue, second color, for a bit of variety. Again, lower left side. And then let's also add some lighter pink, first color, in the second row, a little bit here. And we could go even lighter by using some of that fourth color in the second row. Adding that to that edge a bit. Then we'll move on to the next one. Tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and then on this layer, let's just use that light color and add some of that on the underside. So you get something like this. Then we'll move on to the blue circles. Let's start with this one. Tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and then we'll go for that darker blue, second color. And then again, go over the lower left, adding that darker blue. Then we can go even darker with this third color. And just go over the edge here in the lower left. We can also add a bit of a lighter color, the fourth color in the first row, and add that here with a rounded motion. And I will do the same for that other circle. Tap that layer, turn on alpha lock, and let's first add some of that darker blue, second color in the first row. Add that here. And then we'll pick that lighter color, fourth color in the first row, and add that here. We can make this one a little bit lighter, something like this. Now we can turn on our rectangles again, like this. And we are also going to turn on alpha lock on these layers. Now you can just tap the layer and turn on alpha lock, or you can slide to the right with 2 fingers on the layer to turn alpha lock on. You see that it's turned on when you see that little checkerboard pattern. Now we are going to change the layer blending modes of these layers. We'll tap the N and set the layer blending mode to linear burn. We'll do that for all of these. So every rectangle will have the layer blending mode linear burn. And now you can see the other shapes through these rectangles. Now let's start with this one. Let's add some lighter touch. Let's pick the bright pink first color in the second row, go over the top. So we're going to create some gradients on these shapes as well. And then also this color, fourth color in the second row, add a little bit of that at the top. Then let's move on to the next one. That's this one over here. Let's pick that brighter blue, that fourth color. Now let's go over some of these areas, making this rectangle a little bit more see-through and giving it a nice texture. Then on to the next one, we have the long rectangle. Again, let's use this bright blue. You can just experiment a bit with these colors. We can also add a bit of pink. Let's use this color, first color in the second row. Add a bit of a pink touch. And we can also use this light color, the fourth color in the second row, to add a bit of a gradient here as well. You see how it nicely blends everything together a bit more. Then on to this rectangle, that's this layer. Let's first pick the bright blue, fourth color in the first row, lightening it up a little bit. And then for that fourth color in the second row, for even more light, right here. And then finally, we have this stroke over here. Let's just add a bunch of colors here. Let's start with that bright blue, fourth color. We can add some of that, but we can also add some pinks in here. You can make multiple little strokes. Let's pick the pink, first color in the second row. And maybe a bit over here. And we could add a little bit of that fourth color in the second row. And then you have this super nice abstract artwork that is perfect for your iPad background, or you could even print it and hang it on your wall. And the possibilities are endless with this. You can make multiple arrangements and compositions, experiment with different colors. So have fun, don't forget to share your work, and then I'll see you next time for the next tutorial.